Life is rarely filled with easy decisions. In fact, seemingly, my life is ridiculously complicated. So many facets to everything I need, and the things I do. I'm often obviously outspoken. It's in my nature to be outspoken. It's to question things. Um, but I think many people sometimes think it's impulsive, um, and my decisions are not well thought out. But really, when I make decisions, it's usually been building and building and building for quite some time. So my current job pays considerably well for sort of the role that it is, but for a long time it's just been grinding on me, and um, the disparity between what's fair and what I have to do it's not been it's not been so it's not been it's quite crazy really, because I know what I do and I know my contribution, but for me one of the biggest things for me is to feel appreciated. I think at the lowest level, we at least want appreciation for what we do, and I think when we're taken for granted, that's a huge um, negative, because I won't allow people to take me for granted in any walk of life or in any part of my life. So I can't possibly do that at work. I talked recently with some colleagues, and I said if we had, it's only a small team, so it's not like a huge team. But I said if we had a chart and all our faces were put on this list, I would be at the bottom in the perception of what and I find that remarkable because I'm skilled in every position. Um, I am one of the best on, like, in terms of this is the in warehousing. So on the forklift, I'm one of the fastest, most efficient. I've never had an incident or an accident. So I'm reliable on machinery, and I'm quick. So I can do all those things, but because I talk and communicate with people, it's seen as a negative. But also, I'm not one to um, kiss ass, if you like. I don't. I'm more outspoken than a kiss ass. So the trouble is, some people attach themselves to authority figures, people that have influence, and so their reputation increases for that. So they seem more integral, and the more they complain about how hard their day is, the more people start hearing it and they start feeling it. But then when you watch these people, you think your day isn't even as hard as most of us. But you've put the perception out there now that it is. So of course your status has increased. So it's a way. It's just corrupt. Everything is. There's so much corruption around workplaces and businesses, that money can't control me. It can't contain me. I can't. So there's a good chance that today is the day that potentially I decide to walk away. It puts me in a financial instability. It puts me in a very unstable situation. But I'm probably one of the rare people that cope quite well, and I say quite well. I actually thrive in chaos. Always have. I'm used to suffering. I'm used to struggling. It's usually where I find my most strength, and I've always overcome every circumstance put in front of me. So when we get uncomfortable, it's really just reveals our character really. I've always landed on my feet. Everything's always worked out potentially better than it was before. Um, but I think the biggest problem I've had this time round is the fact that this time round is probably it's one of the most rewarding financial jobs I've had in terms of money. So the idea that I leave this is potentially I'm going to have to take a less somewhere else. But I think when you've reached the end of something, you know you've reached it. It's like I was saying this to some of my colleagues. I said the job was what it was. The job was sold to us a certain way. There was so much potential and opportunity. It was going to be quite relaxed. It was just supposed to be. It was supposed to be like a paradise, really. But management kept changing. It was just incompetence everywhere, and slowly but surely the rules changed and the expectations changed. The job itself changed, and it's still evolving now. But what it's getting is more demanding, more cumbersome. So like I've injured my back enough times. I've hurt my wrist and my arm. Everything's the products we lift are incredibly heavy. Now they've said in a few months' time there'll be a system to determine the weight of items, and then if it's after over a certain weight, then it'll be a two-man lift, which I've been complaining for a long time. And it's like, only then will they recognise that? That's ridiculous. By then my body's shattered and beaten, you know. So like I said, it's actually, I've been getting pain, physical pain, even trying to do the duties, you know. And it's just, at what point do we say money doesn't matter that much? It can't be the be all and end all. We can't just keep throwing ourselves into things just to acquire, because the other thing with that is the more we earn, the more we spend, which is why I find it quite remarkable. There was recently an article I saw. I didn't read the article, but I just saw the headline, and it was someone saying that they're on £80,000 a year, and they're struggling more than when they were on when they earned less 10 years ago or something. I didn't even need to read the article to understand why, whether they recognise it or not. It's because our lifestyles change. The more we earn, the more we spend. So our outgoings tend to be higher. Our quality of life, it tends to be higher, but we still end up just about, depending on what our spending habits are and our level of control with money. It doesn't matter how much money you earn, because if you can't control yourself, your debts are going to still mount, and your just expenditure is going to be higher. You know, so for instance, someone that can't afford takeaways isn't going to buy them, are they? Because how can they get them? Someone earns more money, they buy takeaways. So effectively, the financial difference between both people is one's overindulged in things the other couldn't afford, you know. But either way, they're both left struggling at the end. So that's an issue. But I think like I said, there's so many layers to this that's bothered me to the very point where there's really no way out in terms of me staying anywhere in the long term anyway. But one thing I refuse to do is beg for something. I will never ever beg for anything. I won't do it. I'd rather struggle and suffer than do that. I will not lower myself for someone to have something over me and feel that they're going to dominate and dictate to me, because that's not something I will put up with. So for instance, I've recently had time off work. I went through it. It was my head. The problem I have with work is it's so regimented and structured. I'm someone that craves freedom, and more of a whimsical nature, you know. So I really want to just have that level of freedom. I don't like to be conformed by structure and routine. It bothers me. So if you need time off or time out, with the expectation in a workplace is you can't, because it's almost like we're slaves, you know. We're bound by a rule set, and it's determined that between these hours and these days that you are contracted to be with this company. You have to work, you have to do this. If you're not, you'll be disciplined, and your role will be under question, really. And it's like, why can't we have a time out when we feel we need it? So that bothers me. So effectively, for me to return, I'd have to potentially apologise, feel guilty for needing that time off, hope they find compassion and understand the circumstance. But it's like, I've explained slightly what happened, but I'm not going to go into detail, because why should I? You know, I know the reason why. I know that for me, it was valid. I don't care about the consequences of it, because I needed the time off. What was happening was I was going through like a depression over my daughter and other circumstances, like loneliness and coping through setbacks in love, if you like, you know, feeling like, time's getting ahead of all of us. It's time catches up as well. And it's like, even if you get the fairy tale ending, it's like the older we get, the less time we've got for it. So it starts to weigh on you, you know. And I needed the time out. My head was just going to explode. It was like the pressure of work, the pressure of me working on my books and projects, and the pressure of me trying to figure out, you know, life and my circumstances, you know. And it's like, I need time to process this. I can't just keep being a mule going into work and out of work, in you know, and the expectation and demands of you all the time to be efficient and keep working to the same standard. Meanwhile, you need a reset, but jobs don't understand that. They don't understand that. They feel they own you. They definitely feel they own your time. And my point of view is you don't own anything of me. You know, I've made a commitment to come in. I've made a commitment to work. But when I need a time out, I will take that time out. And again, I don't care about the consequences, and that doesn't fit in with most workplaces, really. So often I have a hard time at workplaces, and I tend to clash. Because if someone gives me respect, I give respect, you know. So someone goes the extra mile for me, I'll go the extra mile for them, you know. And that's what it comes down to. When someone takes you for granted and they don't appreciate what you do, and there's been no integrity from the start, you know, the amount of lies that's been fed, it doesn't make you want to go that extra mile. It doesn't make you trust them anymore. They don't even have their back anymore. And that's really what's happened. Is there's been so many lies with the job. The only thing keeping anyone there anymore is the money. Whereas at the start we was all in it together. We all contributed. It was a great teamwork. We all went the extra mile because we saw the vision and we believed in the process. But now everyone's just solely there for the money. They're terrified to leave because they feel they won't get it somewhere else, so they put up with the nonsense. But for me, it's like I can't allow that. I can't allow myself to be stifled and held back. So I'm not really afraid to seek something new. It's more the hindrance of the financial repercussions in the short term. Um, but I'm not a stupid person. So I know I have skills and I have experience and I have intelligence, so if I can thrive and overcome. I think we need to get off that hamster wheel really, where we're forced every day to be mind controlled and dominated, when really we have everything within us to do what we want, pursue our dreams and goals. And really, it's like I wrote in my book recently, up towards the end, I said about when I find myself stuck in misery, I refuse to stay there for too long. I'd much rather try and fail than keep myself hindered, really. So really, that's where I'm at. I'm at a point of a crossroads. I have big ambitions for the future, but the immediate situation becomes a little bit more precarious when we make decisions that seemingly are unhinged. But how long can we stay miserable? And I also wrote this as well. If you wake up in the morning and you feel anxiety and apprehension, then you're not happy. If you wake up excited for the day ahead, then you're happy. So it's up to us to recognize what our body's telling us. And my body is telling me on so many levels: walk away, have integrity for yourself, respect yourself, find a community that appreciates you, and you'll be rewarded for that, because I think that's so important. People want to think that I don't do enough, or they want to criticize unfairly. Then when I'm not there, they'd have to just cope without that, won't they? And that's what it is. It's like I ain't there to prop anything up. I don't owe anyone anything. I've given as much as I've been given, probably more. And like I said, I won't beg for anything. I literally will not beg for a damn thing. So I think the fact that there's not been maybe an appreciation of the circumstance. I've been through a lot of trouble, a lot of hell, really. What it was, I was editing my book, A Father's Daughter, and it brought me to my knees. I felt like I was there all again with my daughter, fighting through court, her heartbroken, wanting to come home. Our contact constantly stopped, having to constantly fight a losing battle, really. So much corruption. And then have her heart broken at the end sort of destroyed me. I've risen from that to achieve other goals and stuff, but there still lingers in me. See, the heart's still broken. And then there's still other aspects of my life that's missing that I still crave, and it's reliving all that again. It was like, how can I can't go to work as a normal human being at the moment. I need to kind of repair what the damage that's been done. But yet you're supposed to go to work, and then when you don't, you now got to explain yourself. What it's been classed as is I actually informed. I went through the actual process of the absence. I thought, called the line. I've kept everybody updated. I've done everything asked of me. But yet apparently it's been deemed that a few of those days are now considered unauthorized absence. And I'm like, oh, if you're going to play games with me, I'm not even playing it. I'm not going to sit there and explain the circumstance. I mean, I can explain it here in video because I'm doing it because on my terms, but I'm not going to be ordered to explain something. It's like, no, you go to hell, really. So it can be quite volatile. It's more about integrity, though. For me, everything's about integrity. If I don't respect the people I work for, then how can I work for them, And if they're going to judge me unfairly, which I consider unfairly, then I don't really want to be there. We only have so many hours in a day, so much time to achieve what we've got to achieve. So I'd rather work for someone that's respectful. And the way I see it is, we can make mistakes and we can take a step back. So even if the next job is worse than this job, that'll only push me forward to then find the next job after that, until you find the thing that actually makes you happy. But if we keep ourselves stuck in misery, that's all we're going to find. But we've got to be courageous enough to take those leaps of faith. Yeah, in the short term, it's going to be unstable, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be challenging. Of course it is. Things are going to mount fast and rapid. But I think when you're aware of it, you can sort of mitigate that by planning ahead. You know, even bills in the short term, you can always readjust and set new payment plans, set new dates. Things can be adjusted, and I think people get overwhelmed unnecessarily. They think everything's going to cave in on them. They're going to be homeless and they're going to have nothing. And it's like, no, you just plan accordingly. Keep people informed. Say what you're going to do. We'll say what your plans are, and then take action as well and strive forward. We can earn less, like I just explained at the very beginning. Someone earns a lot of money. Their lifestyles, um, often their spending habits are higher because of their lifestyle. We can earn less and be just as comfortable. We just don't have those tempting luxuries that others are wasting money really. Um, so I know my limits and I know where I can, how much I can earn to be comfortable, to be reasonable, and all this. So it's like it doesn't make too much. Just a few little subtle changes, I guess. Um, but yeah, I have a decision to make. I haven't actually definitely made that decision to go, but I mean, I've been leaning towards it. I even wrote a soul's journey towards the end of that. I mean, it's just, I know in my heart I have to go. You know, I've wrote about it, I've done video about it, I've thought about it enough times. But again, it's just that little bit of money that keeps you sort of on a chain, uh, and I don't really like that. So um, I think it's up to us to be the change really, because no one's going to change our lives but us.